Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. We're glad you decided to check us out. God has a specific message of hope for your life and mine today. So listen up.
I really love this series. I mean, I'm learning a lot as I'm going through it. I would love to, I'll be honest with you. Every pastor that you hear talk, they're really got three sources of what they know. Three sources of what you hear. It's one that God taught directly through them, that God taught through somebody else, through books they've read, through preachers or teachers that they've heard. And I'd love to tell you that this whole series, I just threw it out, like that. But that's not the case. There's a book called Marriage on the Rock by Jimmy Evans that really contributed a lot to this series. A lot of stuff. I encourage you to read that book if you're married or if you want to be married one day. Great book to read. Craig Groeschel from Life Church. I heard him preach a series like this on this, and I said, man, this is awesome stuff. Our people need to hear that here in Palm Bay, where we're one of the, in the top 10 of the most of per capita for divorce in the nation. We needed to hear the vow, and the vow was just really a series that I wanted to preach on that. And when you get married, you take vows and stuff like that, and that builds the framework of who you're going to be. A lot of times we write them because they're artistic and creative and everything, and then when we 6 years in, you're like, wait a minute. That's not so artistic creation. That's real, man. I gotta do what? Projectile vomiting, all that. What, are you kidding me? I gotta take care of that. What? It's nuts. But today, last week we talked about the vow of priority. Today we talk about the vow of pursuit. All right. Just show of hands. How many people have made a fool of themselves in the name of love? Come on. You know what I'm talking about. You've done something stupid in the name of love. You know what I'm talking about? Or maybe cute. You drove all night to get somewhere, right? And you had you didn't have any sleep, and you're going to have to drive all night back and be at work at 5 the next morning, but you didn't care. You were fueled by love. It doesn't matter. You're talking on the phone late at night. You remember this back when you had landlines before wireless phones, and you was like, no, you say goodbye first. No, I'm not going to say it. You say it. I'm going to say it. You say it. And 45 minutes later, nobody said goodbye, and you're pretty sure she fell asleep for a little part because you did too. I mean, you came back, and all this crazy type of stuff. I'll tell you one thing I did. I choreographed a show choir routine in the name of love one time. I don't know anything about choreographing dance, but you know what? My girlfriend at the time was like, can you help me choreograph this show choir routine? And I was like, sure, no problem. And I was ready, man. You go for it. You know how it is. When you are single and you're pursuit, you get the value of pursuit. You go. You do. Some of you guys remember James Ingram. You're talking about compliment what she does. Send her roses just because. If it's violin she loves, let them play. All the songs, they have stuff. You just do it. Love her today. Find 100 ways. For you guys that are back in the 80s like me. For you young kids, y'all need to look up James Ingram. He will help you in your pursuit of people. I'm just telling you. The truth is, I've heard it said, by nature we pursue what we don't have. You chase what you don't have, and when we're dating, we really get that. I used to watch this TV show in the 80s called Knight Rider. Has anybody under the age of 40 ever watched Knight Rider? Okay, we've got some Knight Rider people. You go to Netflix and you find it and you go, are you kidding me? Was that really on TV? Oh my gosh, yes. It's like looking at old Star Trek episodes. You're like, that was technology? Are you kidding me? That's on my phone. Kit is on my phone now. What are you talking about? But they had this car and it would go so fast, and that was the whole thing. It was indestructible and it was fast, and it was AI before there was AI, because it would talk to you and stuff like this. And they had this thing called pursuit mode. And pursuit mode, when you press this button, is like everything, you got to get there now. It's all of a sudden you 200, it's like, you watch a little digital, because that was back when digital speedometers were really cool and not stuck on every car. And it's like, it goes really fast, and all of a sudden you're going 200 miles an hour. I remember when it started to get boring, not right, started to get boring, it was trying to jump the shark and stay on TV. They created something called super pursuit mode. Really creative, just pursuit mode. We'll make super pursuit mode. And then all these things, these jets like would come out of the car and he could go like 400 miles an hour. Couldn't do anything any different. He'd just get there faster. I figured it out. And of course, I look back at the TV now and I see they just would speed up the film. And you're sitting there going, wow, he's going really fast. And it all of a sudden occurred to me when I'm watching this Netflix not too long ago, wait, if he's going 400 miles an hour, that car over there that he just passed has got to be going like 275 or 300 because, I know it's faster, but there's super pursuit mode. I remember, I'm going to tell you, and we pursue each other. When I knew that Katie was pursuing me, I'm going to tell you this. Yes, that's right. She pursued me. I knew when Katie was pursuing me, we were in a group talking. I hadn't known her very long. And this is terrible. I'm going to tell you right now. This is not anything I recommend when I'm about to tell you for anyone who's ever hoping to have a date in your life. Gentlemen, I'm going to give you a giant foible. We're in a group dating, and she's making jokes about how she doesn't wear makeup. And then I made the comment, said, well, if you ever want a man, you better try it. Oh! Don't ever do that. Now, my story's different because the next time I saw her, I noticed she was wearing makeup. I felt terrible. Oh, my goodness. I can't believe I said that. But I knew so I'm like, all right, boom, there we go. I remember I drove all night. I drove like 3 hours, 3.5 hours to get to her college to visit her, to go to a Dennis Jernigan concert. Dennis Jernigan. He's a Christian. I've never told you this, but I don't really care for Dennis Jernigan. It was all about you, baby. I mean, he's a Christian. He's got good stuff. It's praise and mercy stuff. But I mean, people at the concert doing, swirlers and all this type of stuff. And I'm just like from South Alabama going, oh my gosh. So I went to this. I drove to go to this. I spent money, I think. Was it money? No, it was free. But I went to this concert. And drove up there to see her in my little Ford Ranger pickup, man. And then right after the concert, she broke up with me. That's sad, That was hard, man. I remember I went back. She had me sleeping at this dude's house that I didn't even know. I'm sleeping on his couch. And, of course, I got there at like 10:30 because, when she says it's over, well, there's not really anything else to talk about now, is there? So I go back, I'm laying on the couch, and him and 15 of his friends roll in, laughing and yucking it up about 1 a.m. in the morning. I want to kill them, but I can't because I'm a guest in his home. That wouldn't go over well. The ride back to Fort Worth the next day was really difficult. Now, I could have given up. I could have just shut off the little pursuit mode button, but I did not. I went back and I kicked it into super pursuit mode. Yeah, I got kicked to the friend zone. Well, I'm telling you, like Knight Rider coming out of that other dimension for you agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I crawled my way out of that friend zone. I did. I cleared the schedule. Man, when she was home from college, I just magically had nothing else to do but hang out, show up at their house. Every now and then, every time at church, she went to the same church I worked at the church. It's amazing how many times you can bump into somebody on a Sunday morning when you plan it. It's amazing. Oh, hey. You like the women's restroom too? I'm just putting out some bulletins right here. How did I know? Can you believe this? And you got to play it just right if you're friends. I played that, we're going to be friends card really well. And here's how you do it. Guys, it's secret. You got to be the first to leave every time. You got to be the first to get off the phone. If you're in the friend zone, you got to stop. Hey, we're having a great time. I'm sorry. I got to go. Hey, maybe later. See you sometime. Okay, bye. And you're out, because I didn't want to seem like a needy stalker, even though probably in my heart I was. You know what I'm saying? But you can pursue somebody, and by Christmas, buddy, whole different story. 22 years later, 3 kids. I'm out of the friend zone. So it can be done. If you need help, come talk to me. I'll share that with you. But, the truth is we get pursuit. The moment we get pursuit when we're dating somebody, and I'm going to tell you a secret about marriage. The moment that you stop pursuing your spouse is the moment that you start to lose your spouse. Can I say that to you? I'm going to be honest with you. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going away tomorrow, but it does mean that you're letting it lapse. When the moment you stop pursuing your spouse is the moment you start losing your spouse. Some hang on by fingernails, some just get stuck in a rut, some marriages end, but that's when it begins to stop. And seriously, in any other area of your life, where can you just be lazy and get better? I am living proof that you cannot just like lay on the couch and start to get like six-pack abs. It doesn't happen with your body. It doesn't happen. At work, do you get lazy and just get better? No, that doesn't work that way. In your yard. You know, if you're just lazy with your yard, is it all of a sudden going to look better? You know, people, this is kind of something free one here. You know, if the grass is greener somewhere else, I've heard that you need to water your yard. And that's kind of what needs to happen in our marriages. If we look over and the marriage is better over there, then we need to water than it is over here. If it's green over there than it is right here, then we need to water our yard. You know, the vow we talked about last week was, vow number one was, I promise God will be our first priority and my spouse will be my two. I promise that God will be my first priority. Seek him first before anybody else. Before my spouse, she'll be the two. And this week is the vow of pursuit. It says, I promise to always pursue my two. Now say that with me. I promise to always pursue my two. And we looked at Genesis 2:24 last week, and we're kind of going, this series is really based off that. It's amazing how much God can pack in to one verse. But it's really cool when you break that verse down. Last week we had talked about leaving, you know, how that's azab and how that's loosen and relinquish. You leave your father and mother, you loosen that main relationship, and you clamp on to your spouse. In Genesis 2:24, it says this, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. And that leaves, azab, loosen, relinquish, leave mom and dad, and then I clamp on, and this is my new relationship right here. That word united is interesting as well. That comes from the root word debak in Hebrew. I'm not a big Hebrew guy and stuff. You won't hear a lot of it, but you'll hear a little bit about this because it's just really cool. It means, what debak means actually is cling to or adhere to. It's a really picturesque language, Hebrew is. It also means to pursue, to catch by pursuit. They're pretty cool. To catch by pursuit. It means to pursue hard with affection and devotion. And when it says you're united to his wife, that's a state of being. That's not an accomplished task. Because you can be united, the plan is from here to eternity, here to the end of life. That is the plan. So when you're united, think about it this way. A man leaves his father and mother and is in a continually pursuing hard after his wife, and they become one flesh. And honestly, that works for both. It's not just the man. You know, that's for both people. You know, I said the word is translated really several times in the Bible. It's like follows close after in Psalms, and it joined fast in Job, and it talks about pursued hard after in Judges. And you really see pursuit in a really good way to see pursuit, what it looks like in a major ways in the story of Rachel and Leah and Jacob. And that's in the Old Testament. Let me fill you in on that. Basically what happens is Jacob meets up with this girl, Rachel, and she blows his mind. That's kind of what happens. And back in the day, you had to go ask the dad, okay, can I marry your daughter? You know, and Laban was like, okay, you know, you can work 7 years and I'll give her to you. But here's the problem. Rachel had a sister named Leah, and the Bible, as kind as it can be, pretty much says this about Leah. There was no sparkle in Leah's eyes, but Rachel had a beautiful figure and lovely face. That was basically the Bible's way of saying that Leah had a nice personality. She had a great personality. That's what's up, you know. She was sparkling. At some places it said she had weak eyes, you know. In other words, she was kind of not real pleasing to the eye. But Rachel was. Rachel was the pretty one. You know, that's kind of how it went, you know. And so, Rachel, there you go. Jan and Rachel. Except Leah was the oldest. So, you know, Laban said, all right, 7 years, you work for 7 years, and I'll let you marry Rachel. And so he worked for 7 years and got to the end. And back in the day, you know, had the veil and all this stuff. And this is where you get the don't see the bride from, this type of stuff. Because what happened was he went through the ceremony, and he pulls back the veil, and he's married. He pulls back the veil, and it's Leah. Oh, my gosh, are you kidding me? And he's like, Laban, what's going on? I worked 7 years for you, man. He said, oh, I'm sorry, dude. You know, it's our tradition with our people. We have to, the older one gets married first, you know, and that's just kind of how it goes. I don't know if he made him work 7 years because he thought, well, in 7 years, obviously she'll, you know. I mean, and then this was a last minute thing. Nobody knows how that came about, but it happened. But here's the problem. A lot of people think in that story, a lot of people think what happened was that, okay, because what Laban says, you can have Rachel now if you work 7 more years for me. A lot of people think that he worked for 7 years again and then married Rachel. But that's not what happened. Laban, after he married Leah, he also married Rachel right there, but he worked for 7 years for what he already had. That's the picture of pursuit that we need to have in our relationships and in our marriages. Is that we work, I'm going to work for what I'm going to pursue, not what I don't have, but I will pursue what I already have. And that's what we need to look at when we look at in marriage. If you're single and dating, I want to share this with you. If you're in a relationship with someone and there's no mutual pursuit there, you need to reevaluate your relationship. And what I say is, if she just doesn't return your phone calls, doesn't want anything to do with you, all this type of stuff, and you're just like, you have to move heaven and earth to get her to look at you, that type of thing, look, hey, and you're dating, you want to reevaluate that. Girls, if he won't dress up, if he won't want to have a date, if he don't want his friends to know, if he's not proud of who you are, then you need to reevaluate that relationship. Because I'm not sure that, because I'm going to tell you, pursuit does not get easier. Pursuit gets harder. And I'm going to tell you like this. We used to play touch football, around with the guys. And the first time you play with somebody, it's like you could say tackle the man with the ball or something like that. That was really better. I mean, because one guy gets the ball and everybody chases him, right? And well, you find out real quick who's fast. But after a while, you learn all their moves. And so when they do this, they're really not going that way. And you go this way and you get them. You learn their tricks. The longer you're with somebody, the truth is you're going to learn you're going to have to learn their tricks, and you're going to find out new things. There's going to be an understanding. You're going to have to know them deeper. The surface things won't work as well. Just complimenting what she does and buying her roses just doesn't do it forever. You can't just do that every day. There is a way that you get to know someone intimately and know who they are. And see, that's the truth of how it is. And see, there needs to be a pursuit, and a pursuit, a love that happens there. Here's some things that I learned, and these are not original. Once again, I'm just going to share some stuff that's good advice. And it says, and these are some things to help you stay in pursuit mode, okay? Here's some things to help you stay in pursuit mode. Number one, if you think something good to say it. It's pretty simple. Like, Jim, boy, that's rocket science. Jim, you went to seminary for that? Well, no, not really. I didn't get that in seminary. I got all the high-level stuff, and now we're back to the practical. So, I mean, you got to do something, say it. It seems simple. But how many times do you think of something good to say and you just don't? You just don't. God moves in your heart. Say something nice, and you don't. I could say this at this moment. I could text so-and-so this at this moment, and you don't. If you think of something good to say it. In Hebrews 3:13, it says this. It says, but encourage one another daily as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. See that? Encourage one another. Why? We say that we're good to put that, okay, that's for the body and everyone in the church, but you know what? You're married to somebody, and your marriage is a picture of the gospel. That should be most happening in your marriage. And why? Because you want them to become hardened by sin's deceitfulness. You want to continue to water that ground, but so it is not hard and tough to deal with. Because bitterness can arise up there. You want to be pleasing and helpful to what's going on in your marriage. Well, how do I encourage my spouse? They don't always think like me. Ephesians 5:33 says this. He says, so again I say, each man must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. And see, a lot of times, like I said, my spouse don't always think like me. I'm going to be honest with you. Katie doesn't always think like me. I know you're probably thankful for that, all of you people that know her. That's probably why everybody likes her, and then I'm kind of abrasive. She doesn't think the way I do. And you may find that with people of the opposite sex. They don't think the way you do. But see, the Bible tells us something really key here. And this is general. It varies in waves. As people, Katie and I, we used to go to marriage conference and said, well, men do this and women do that. And I would go, well, I'm doing all the stuff that the woman does. So I guess I'm transgender. I guess that's what's up with me, because I'm the emotional one and she's the fact finder, and all that type of stuff. And I'm the overflow talker and she doesn't want to talk about it. She just wants to get past it, that type of thing. It's varying degrees. These are general things, but I think all of these apply in some degree in your relationships. And here it is this. It's, men, when you love your wife, pursue her with words of affection. Because it says there in Ephesians 5:33, love your wife. He is to love his wife. Look, and I'm going to tell you something. Try non-sexual affection. Okay? Let's try that. Okay, non-sexual. What is that, Jim? Okay, it's non-sexual affection. Affection that does not involve sexual. Okay? You got that? Because guys can make anything sexual, all right? Just don't do that. All right? Non-sexual affection. When I say, and here's a good tool for you guys. Here's a practical tool. When you say I love you to your wife, you add the word because, and then you have a blank at the end of that you change every time with something cool about her. I love you because you are extremely organized. I love you because you take care of me in ways I wouldn't take care of myself. I love you because you wrap your arms around all our family and you go after them hard and try to make sure they have what they need. I love you because when I am prickly like a porcupine, you still love me. I love you because we've been together for 22 years and there is no end in sight. I love you because you've seen all the bad and the good of me and you're still here loving me. I love you because you love Jesus. See, there's a lot of things you can do. I could keep going. But these things, I love you because, and you change the ending every time. That's a good way to start, guys. Pursue her with words of affection. Ladies, from a guy's perspective, I want you to pursue him with words of affirmation. Oh gosh, I need to manage the male ego. Okay, all right, whatever you want to call it, you go that route, but I'm going to tell you what it's key what it said there in Ephesians 5. It says, look, you see that the woman respects her husband. Respects, that's a big deal. When he's telling, listen to this, he's becoming the words that you say, all right? So what you need to tell him is not all the things that he's not, but what you see him becoming one day. I'm going to tell you just from a guy's standpoint, the best boss I ever had was James Nance. And I came into seminary, I started working at Katie's church for James Nance. I could not program a VCR. I kid you not. I've tried. It was horrible. If you remember those things back in the day, you had to program them to do stuff. And I'd even tried to edit some video on a VCR. The year before I applied for this job with James Nance as a media intern of all things, I was desperate. I had no job. And my roommate was like, hey, Jim plays in a band, so he probably knows stuff about sound. Hey, give it a shot, Jim. So I went. And James hired me. And he took me from knowing jack squat just by complimenting everything that he could find to compliment about me. And I started editing video. I started creating commercials. I started creating our own background music. I'd get in the studio and I'd have all my instruments and I'd play all that stuff out. And that became a bedrock foundation of some of the gifts that God used me to do his work for the rest of my ministry career up to this point and still going. Tell him what he's becoming, not what he's not. I want to give you just a little something right here. Our job is to encourage each other. And things today, and people, we don't criticize our way to a good marriage. It never really happens, just to be honest with you. Here's something that Andy Stanley said that I think is really cool. What's rewarded is repeated. And I'm adding this on the end is what's penalized becomes ostracized. What's rewarded is repeated, but what's penalized becomes ostracized. I saw the saddest thing the other day on Facebook, and I wasn't going to say this, but man, it's been running around the brain. I saw this lady, it was an article that she shared, and she was ranting about her husband who had cleaned up the house. And when she came home, he went and said, hey, look what I did. And her response was, you live here, what's your freaking problem? And everybody's like piling on that. Yeah, he lives here. How dare he thinks, he should just be proud of cleaning up the house. And I'm like, well, okay, you made your point. you got a rant, a lot of likes on Facebook, but I'm going to tell you right now, you just took something positive that was done that would have helped you and benefited you, and you just criticized it. I'm not so sure he's going to keep doing it. And I'll tell you this, if he does, I don't know if he's going to do it in the same loving heart that he did it before. And granted, nobody needs to go around and if you're a husband and you go around and you help around the house, you don't need to clang your bell and chime your tone and ooh, I did something. No, you lived there, man. Do something. But the truth of that matter is we need to encourage our spouses to be better and to be what they can be. Our job is to encourage each other. Man, he wants to know, do you love me? She wants to know, ladies. Men, she wants to know. I'm getting all confused. Okay, I'm talking to the men, and this is what she wants to know. She wants to know, do you love me today? All right? Segmented back. Women, speaking to you. He wants to know, do you believe in me today? There is nothing greater than when I get home on a Sunday and my wife, when I unsolicited says, you did a great job today, or I learned this, or that was really good. That application, man, that is the epicenter of my Sunday when that happens. Nothing greater. Second is this: when you think something special, do it. When you think something special, do it. James 4:17 says, look, if anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. Now that's applied one way, but that is a principle that carries a lot of places. If you know something good, to do it. You join them in their interests. Watch a chick flick for a change. And if your wife loves the beat 'em up, shoot 'em up movies, guys, give up your chick flick and watch the beat 'em up, shoot 'em up. All right? For Pete's sake, grow up a little bit. Come to the other side of the aisle or whatever. Watch that. It's okay. We did a marriage conference several years ago. Katie and I spoke at that, and one of the things that Katie brought out was something she had read about a wife who was talking about, she was in counseling with this counselor and said, I can't get my husband to talk. He won't talk to me. It's all superficial stuff. It's all crazy stuff. It's just like whatever and move on. He won't say anything. And the counselor told us, hey, well, what does he like to do? And she said, well, he likes to work on cars, but I don't care anything about that. And he's just out there under the hood. She said, well, you go join him in that. So she went out there and just sat with him while he worked on cars. And said in about 15, 20 minutes, they started having the best conversation they've had since they got married. Because she found a place where he was comfortable, and it just started happening. And then all of a sudden, they're talking about all these things and their life together and stuff like that. And that works both ways. Guys, dude, show up in the kitchen every now and then, if that's what she does. If you're the kitchen person, wife, show up in the kitchen every now and then. Roles are not, there's nowhere in the Bible that says you got to cook and I got to whatever I do. It's none of that. Now, that was the way it works in our house because we would starve if it was up to Jim to cook. I tried. I tried when we were pursuing her. And I'd cook every now and then, but it's not so hot. Come home early. Take off a morning while the kids are in school. And y'all just go do something. Put things aside. Here's the other thing. If you want something different, be it. When you're looking at the other person, it's very easy to find all the faults in them. But see, here's the thing. God has not given you dominion over the faults of someone else. He's given you the ability to be a part of the solution that changes the things in you. Rather than saying, well, he's not the spiritual leader, or she's too bossy, maybe you need to submit a little bit more, and maybe you just need to not down. Because I'm going to be honest with you, if somebody tells me you're not this, that's the last thing I want to go try to do is prove them wrong about this. You're not a spiritual leader, okay? That's the last thing I want to do as a spiritual leader at that point. And I don't know, there's something inside of me. Luckily, I don't have that. Katie didn't say that to me. But, I can put myself in that position of things when people say stuff to me. That's not what I want to just go do is prove them wrong and do what they said. I don't want to give in. There's a rebellious spirit called our sin nature that causes us to want to go against things that are good for us. Don't make it a problem. If he's not a spiritual leader, if he prayed at Thanksgiving one time, thank you, that was awesome. Thank you for praying at Thanksgiving. That was the greatest thing. You compliment the things that you want to see repeated. Because why? What's rewarded is repeated. What's penalized is ostracized. Same way. If she goes with one of your ideas, guys, and she trusts you there, you make sure you stop and you tell her, hey, thank you so much for trusting me. I appreciate that. That means the world. I'm going to make sure, you want your harebrained schemes? I'm going to make sure that this works. I am going to work my hardest to do that. Make sure that she knows that. Look, if you don't, here's another thing to look at. Well, is if you don't like what you're getting, look at what you're giving. If you don't like what you're getting, look at what you're giving. And you may say, well, but Jim, I'm giving my best. When our kids were growing up, we started teaching them about gift giving. You've done this with your kids. And what we would do a lot is to say, okay, what do you want to get mommy for her birthday, right? And invariably, you know, it's not just Anne-Marie's in here, but it's not just Anne-Marie, it's all of them. You know, at some point, they will invariably say, well, I want to get mommy a toy that was really kind of the toy they wanted. What they would really like, that didn't have anything to do with mommy. You know, and we'd say, oh, that's nice. And because we try to evaluate, so look, that's a very special thing that you like. You know, but when you're giving a gift to someone, you need to think about, what would mommy like? What would mommy need? What does mommy? And you don't think about what's special to you, but you think about what's special to mommy. And the same thing is true in our marriages and in our relationships and in our parent-kid relationships, our kid, mom and dad relationships, all of these things, our friends. Not what I want you to have, but what would you want me to give you? What is the best for you? How can I give you? I mean, honestly, we're talking about what pushes you closer to the Lord, because the truth is that if there's anybody that knows how to give good gifts, it tells us in Scripture, it's God. We'll look that up. How do we give good? We give to those. It says, you know, if you don't like what you're getting, look at what you're giving. Instead of complaining about what you don't have, ask God, what can I give to this marriage to make it better? What can I give to this relationship to make it better? What can I do to make this better, rather than spending my time talking about the other person? Because there's a lot of times, I know, you go to these things, I've been there, you go to the marriage conference, you're sitting there, you're going, oh, she heard that. You know, and then you're kind of doing that. You're missing the point if you're saying this, because God has you here listening to this. There are things for you. And the things that you need to be concentrating on are the things that are for you. And let God deal with the rest. Two final words right here. To get what you've never had, you must do what you've never done. We get that in the pursuit mode when we're single, right? I had never choreographed no. I didn't want to go see Dennis Jurgen, but you know what? I wanted to see her. She wants to see Dennis Jurgen. I'm going to go do it. I don't care, as long as I'm with her. We get that. But see, here's the thing. To get what you once had, you must do what you once did. And a lot of times when we don't have what we once had, it's because we stopped doing what we once did. And here's the greatest thing of all with that. It's not just repeating and going back and reminiscing, but when you were pursuing your spouse, you were trying to figure out who they were. You were interested in them. And when I say you stop doing and what you need to do what you once did, you need to continue doing that, because that person is deeper than you could possibly realize. There are more layers there than you could possibly ever know. I have continued to learn more about my wife over the last 22 years. I haven't learned enough. I'm behind the curve. There's such a wealth of knowledge there, and I don't read well. I work hard. I don't do the best that I can. But as we continue to learn that we have to do to get what we once had, we have to do what we once did. You know, Jesus was talking about this to the church at Ephesus that had fallen away from him. You know, in Revelations 2, he says, look, how far you have fallen. Turn back to me and do the works you did at first. That's a good principle to carry as well into our marriages. Not just the superficial things, but the principles behind it, the passion behind it, how we came to those actions. Do it again. I vow that God will be my first priority and my spouse will be my 2. Second vow is I will always pursue my 2. Let's pray.
Thanks for being a part of Bay West today. Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Road in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. Please feel free to check us out at baywestchurch.org, or you can follow us on Facebook at Bay West Church.